light on your work instead?
In a minute.
Okay.
So what I was thinking of doing today was a painting. Well, actually, there's a painting behind my computer. Let me see if I can pull it down. So this, it's not that I'm going to do this whole painting, but I'm going to use this as a model.
Yes, beautiful. You may want to introduce your friend too. I hear squawking in the background.
Yeah, that's Pearl. She's a small sun conure, and she's very important. So yeah, this is a sketch that painting came from.
Yes, we can see it. Good.
Yeah, and so I did this, you know, while sitting next to an actual tree. And I have a lot of sketches. I painted persimmons a lot, and these kind of sketches help me a lot. Another one. Just gives you an idea. These are with a Conti crayon. One of my favorite drawing mediums is pen, like a rapidograph pen. And I drew with the rapidograph pen for quite a few years before I took up brush painting. I was really fascinated with the idea of Zen, and I was already an accomplished oil painter, and I could paint from early ages, but it took me some effort to really learn to draw. And even though I worked as a draftsperson for a number of years. And so with the pen, with the rapidograph specifically, it's a one-dimensional instrument where you're holding something that is only one width of ink that comes out of it, and going faster or slower makes no difference, except that maybe if you go too fast, it'll skip, and if you go too slow, it'll leave little puddles of ink. If you sit still, it'll leave a little puddle of ink. Who asked you, huh?
Let's chime in.
And so drawing with a pen for a number of years, it was my interest in Zen. One of my high school teachers was a Japanese man who had actually lived through the Japanese internment. And he was a very good oil painter, and his work was kind of a fusion of Japanese ideas with Western oil painting. I won't talk about it too much, but eventually I'd say that influenced me quite a bit. My other teacher there was Ralph Goings, a photorealist, and all my early work was more in the photorealism realm, but I was always, you know, pretty expressionistic. And so I decided to start drawing with a pen, and it became a part of my life where I really didn't have a whole lot of time. So an hour here, an hour there, and I could manage. And I spent a lot of time going up to the botanical garden at UC Berkeley. And I'd just sit down and I would interview plants in these drawings. And then I'd, you know, sometimes do watercolor and colored pencil, depending on how much time I had. And eventually, in 1981, I started studying Tai Chi, and that led to further my interest in brush painting. And then I began to study brush painting, and I took the idea of the pen and what I had developed with it, which is that ability to be very present with the material, with the subject, and to have it come out perfectly. That idea into the brush, where with the brush you have ultimate, a whole lot more dynamicism that is available, because fast or slow makes a big difference. How wet or how dry the brush is, how big the brush is, the gradation of the ink, the color, you know, there's the type of movement. There's just a lot of stuff, but it all boils back down to that kind of Zen idea of being present. Recently, a friend of mine created a 10-minute film about work. And if you have a chance, it's on my website on my About page. Take a look at it. I'm pretty excited about it. So I started this earlier. Oops, let's see here. Do I need to, I was kind of debating whether to do a grapevine, something more like this, which is a little bit closer to classical. Actually, you can go ahead, Roz, and switch over to my workspace.
Okay.
I'll just show it right here. Yeah. So this is a 18th century painting, Japanese painting from a book. And I've always really loved this particular painting. And the light and dark, the beautiful use of space, the beautiful brushwork. It's pretty inspirational, and I've done quite a number of paintings that use this as a jump-off point. Now, I don't have samples here. The persimmon paintings, I started probably in the late 90s. I'd actually never seen persimmons before, and I started painting them because I found them interesting. And I've done a lot of paintings of persimmons over the years. So, but originally, there was a painting of 3 persimmons that I saw that was done by a monk. I don't have a picture of it here. It was very simple. I'm going to guess around maybe 1300s. So I really like a lot of the older work. The work from the 1000s and then the work from the 1600s I find the most fascinating. And I haven't really delved into the philosophy of those times a whole lot, but they I suspect they're more natural. They're not so garish. They're not repetitive in the sense of being overly generic. So those, there was a painter, Chow Xiaowan is a painter in the Lingnan style from the 20th century who's passed away, but the Asian Art Museum has quite a few of his paintings. And so there's a painting of kumquats. Actually, one of my beginning classes recently did that, and or did a painting from that. Do I have it right around here? No. And so using that, it gradually became persimmons because I honestly don't have kumquats. I rarely see them, and I was really loved persimmons. So I changed the whole arrangement into persimmons. And so I started this afternoon. And one of the things that happens is I'm actually not sure I can complete a painting here tonight, just because there's usually finishing touches that happen after the painting is done and it needs to dry. It needs to dry, and you can't really tell what it looks like until it's finished drying. So I'm not really, I can't say 100% that it's going to be really finished. But I will, let's see, where shall I start here? Is it okay if I ask, does anybody have any questions at this moment before we go any further?
I don't see any so far on chat, but if you do,
Okay.
go ahead and type a message and we'll relay it.
Okay. So I've got a jar of water here. And I've got my palette here. I am using Schminke paints here. Now, when I teach, I have my students use Marie's watercolor or gouache. Schminke is really not very easy to control on the rice paper. Rice paper is a mulberry paper, and it's pretty thin. This is a high quality plate Schwan here that I'm working with tonight. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down this persimmon. It's kind of the focal point, if there is a focal point, because one thing is my paintings are more about movement than they are about focal points. And even my still lifes, I call them still lifes that move.
Do you sketch first, Karen, or do
Nope. You will see. I'm just going to start painting here. Having drawn a lot, having studied things is part of the process. So right now I'm just getting some paint on my brush.
what colors are you using?
I'm using a yellow, vermilion, and a little bit of some cadmium red deep. Now I'm going to be careful not to put this persimmon right in the middle of the picture. I'm going to go for some May green. Mixed in with a little bit of Marie's stone green.
Is there a special reason why you use rice paper?
Well, I could do this on watercolor paper, but it's not the same. And I do paint on watercolor paper, but I do, the techniques are a little bit different.
And
So
if you
the
could,
paper's thin, and so what you just saw me do, like turn the brush around like that and put the paint down, if I try to do that on a watercolor paper, the paper is so thick that I'll get about this far and then I'll have to reload the brush because the paper will have drank up all the paint out of the brush.
and if you could spell for us the brand of watercolor paints you're using.
Yeah, I don't recommend them for beginners. They're very frustrating because, well, for a lot of reasons, but the color is really beautiful, and so I use them. It's Schminke, SCHMINCKE. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And actually, I've got quite a few different brushes over here. I'll show you. There's hard brushes and there's soft brushes, and there's a few detail brushes. The Orchid Bamboo brush, I have two of them here, and they are standards. They are irreplaceable. You could not live without them. So let's see, the next thing I'm going to do.
Are these paints a gouache, Karen?
No, they're not gouache.
But I think you said you had your students use gouache.
Yeah, gouache is nice, is formulated to stick really nicely on the rice paper. So the way that it doesn't lift and move later, like when you want to add layers or background to it. But I'm going to fatten this up just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to make this. So I have a little bit of a problem. No, I just solved it. One thing you don't want to do is to divide your picture in half by putting your subject so that it's exactly left or right of middle. And the same thing with up and down. Of course, you can always cut the paper later.
So the technique you're using is using the tip and then sliding the brush in a circular motion is?
There's some of that. There's a lot of different techniques. There's Karen, who's in the gallery here, has been taking my class, and we do something different almost every week.
Oh, wow. Are these colors opaque, the paints you're using?
Well, it depends on the color. Like, cadmium colors are very opaque.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm using a cadmium yellow. So here's the other side of a leaf. The leaf is folded. Whoops. I'm picking up some black ink. So one of the things you have to realize is what I'm demonstrating here tonight is really my own technique. And so I use a lot of classical ideas. So as I say, not East and not West, it's really a hybrid. And what I teach generally is more classical, so that people learn we study good paintings by masters, and that way we can learn techniques and apply it to whatever a student's interest is. To fatten that up a little bit. Okay. And the paper is a little small. I found that if I work on too big of papers, it's harder in the zoom. Okay, this leaf back here. The side of a leaf. Small. I'm going to pick up my larger orchid bamboo brush. Yellow, green, and a little indigo.
So you've got the green on the side and the black on the tip, looks like.
Yep.
Very interesting effect.
Now, one thing about rice papers is there is different thicknesses of rice papers. Rice paper is not made of rice, it's made of mulberry. Which is a tree fiber, basically.
Why is it called rice paper then?
I suspect it had to do with the servicemen in Japan after World War II. A combination of needing just something to call it, and the fact that the surface is a little bit like polished rice in terms of the color. Although you can get rice paper in quite a few different colors and textures and varieties. But a thinner paper, this is a double Schwann, Schwann means soft. And there's different thicknesses. So a single weight Schwann is thinner, and so the release of the paint is even more immediate. It's a little bit, it's not so good for layered work, like a lot of the work that I like to do, but it's good for more singular, single stroke work. Let's see if I have.
And where do you get your brushes?
These days, you can get brushes online at Oriental Art Supply, which is in Manhattan Beach.
Okay.
And they, the nice thing about their setup is they're very responsive. Their website lists everything on it, so you can read exactly what you're getting. In the old days, you just have to, well, I used to buy stuff at Eastwind, and they were a good source, but a little bit unreliable. Eastwind in Berkeley. None that they have these days. I know that they're still there and they're quite popular. So it's kind of evolved over the years. There was a point in time when I used to go and buy from a guy who was a teacher at City College, and he had he at some point he became very
Karen, when you get a second, can you move your paper up a little bit so we can see more of it?
Oh, you're actually right at the bottom of the paper there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm just
I
adjusting my
see.
phone
Yeah.
a little bit there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, these small size papers do tend to feel restrictive. So, you know, in a way, it's kind of like you hold the idea of the overall feeling while you're working. So this leaf goes behind.
So the painting kind of evolves. Is that as you're going along?
It does evolve. But in this case, I'm looking at a painting I've already done for my cues, but the painting is much larger, so I have to edit a lot. But yeah, typically when I'm just developing a composition, you know, it can take quite a while. Like you reach stopping points where where you have to think about it, you have to feel it before you do the next thing because you can't erase it.
Yes, one of the things I've had to learn is that less is more, you know, so it doesn't become overwrought and too busy.
Yeah, that's in the composition. So your empty spaces are really important.
Do you ever use washes in the background at all or leave it white?
Oh yeah. I do all my backgrounds at the end. And I'm the only watercolor artist I know that does that. Because I want the subject to evolve and not be restrained by some predetermined background.
What is that color that you're using?
I'll try to tell you in a minute. So I started with a lemon yellow cadmium. There was a little bit of white, a little bit of green, probably a little bit of blue,
Mm-hmm.
one of those kind of colors. That's why I left. So I have to admit, it's a lot easier when you're copying, more or less copying a painting than if you're developing it. But I wouldn't want to put anybody through the torture of having to, you know, to sit and wait while I figure out some of the thought processes. This is a sap green.
Do you ever paint from photographs, or are they sort of just used as a?
I use photographs for reference. I started out as a photorealist and I grew to really hate that. My high school teacher was Ralph Goings, who was became a very famous photorealist. All my earliest work was a whole series of piles of junk, like piles of tires, piles of gears, piles of old rusty trucks.
Yeah, interesting. When did it evolve after you took the Japanese brush painting?
Well, you know, that was part of the evolvement for sure. In the early 70s or mid 70s, I had a small plant store for about a year and a half. It's a long story, which I won't go into. But I got really interested in plants then, in drawing plants. And I had seen my first George O'Keeffe in like 1970 in Chicago. I was really kind of blown away. But I didn't really think that painting flowers was my thing. After all, that's only something little old ladies do, which I am now, but don't tell anybody. Not quite warm enough. So part of the involvement here is the leaf that I'm looking at has a whole different space, so I have to allow for that. So while I had that store, I started going up to the botanical garden, and then eventually I started going there a lot just to draw. And well, I guess there's more to the story than that, if I should bore you or not. But yeah, at the botanical garden, I started drawing with the pen. I made this decision. I really wanted to be able to just draw, to put the pen down and have it come out. And at first, the story goes that all my drawings were very lopsided because I was lopsided. Everything in my life was lopsided. And it's come out. But I just stayed with it, you judge. It's just an experience. And it's interesting. Like I said, everything was lopsided, and also I tended to overdraw everything like it was too big. I made everything huge just because like everything in life seemed really huge and hard to, be under control. So that's how my drawings were. So it was really a life process. Tai Chi in 1981, and then I decided that that art was actually Tai Chi. And the brush, you know, and the painting was more of an extension of your breath as opposed to just, you know, an idea that you're kind of imposing on the paper or the canvas or whatever. Because actually, I worked on canvas the first several years. So yellow, blue, and black. So, you know, one of the big challenges of a painting like this is that basically it's kind of close up and you've got a lot of repetitive shapes. You've got leaves and these, you know, oval, round fruits. And how to make them look interesting together in the composition is a big part of the challenge. So I'm just looking to replenish some. You can never find that color when I'm looking for it. Oh, here it is. Is it? Yeah. Problem is the lids stick in between when the paint dries.
What color is that? That's a.
This is a cadmium yellow deep.
Mm-hmm.
For that, yes. And this is a leaf that goes behind. Picking up some alizarin crimson.
Is that a pen or?
This is a detail brush.
Ah.
See, trying to put it where you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some. There's a leaf going off the paper here. All right. darken that up a little bit. It's drying lighter than I want. And we've got a big persimmon right behind here. Let's see, maybe I'll use, I'm going to use a soft brush. So this is a soft brush used for filling. You can see it's kind of like if you push like that, it kind of retains that. It's soft. It's good used for fill-in. Whereas this orchid bamboo, if you go like that, it's wolf hair and it's springier. There's brushes. I've got some horsehair brushes that I'm not using, but these are really springy, very energetic brushes. Okay, I'm going to put a persimmon in back here, and it's orange, but I don't want it to be the same color as the one in front. Pick up yellow, vermilion. I'll just put it in first and then I'll shade it. So we don't see the top of it. I'm going to shade it with a little green here.
So it's getting to be about 7 o'clock. So this, if you want, we can go further, or you can stop now, or it's up to you.
I can keep going. Does anybody want to stop and take a break? Maybe ask the gallery.
Yeah, get back to me if you want to.
Okay. Now let's go for at least for another 10 minutes here. I can't believe
that
now
sounds good.
an hour has already passed. Okay. Now we've got another persimmon up here. And actually there's here too. Oops. having to make some decisions here about placement, given the much smaller shape. So I'm going to go do something else for a while I figure that out. We've got this leaf, got another leaf over here. So where am I? I'm over here. Okay. So I just basically changed quite a few things there. And of course, I'm not going to make it the same color as the ones next to it because I want it to recede and to be differentiated. Of course, there's the wasps as well. think I'll put it right there. Just thinking about where to put this sorry, it's not a chrysanthemum. This persimmon. It's going to hide. Maybe we'll see a bit of this little air. Okay. Getting there.
So Karen, is the black you've been using ink or a particular color on your palette?
Right, it is black ink, Sumi ink. So compositionally, it feels pretty solid.
So it's about 10 after 7, Karen.
Okay. Yeah, take a break. You know, the composition is all there now. It's just details, and I probably won't be able to put a background on it because it has to dry before I can do that. But what I can do, let's see, how can I do that? Oh, I can put a background on this one here just so you can see how it's done.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah. So why don't we take like a
10 minutes?
5, 6, 7, 10-minute break, something like that, however long you're comfortable with, Karen.
Whatever, I'm fine.
We usually take about 10 minutes and then we'll resume again and
Okay.
we'll start the bidding at $150.
Okay, and so the time right now is 7:11, so come
11,
back at
it's
7.
7:12. So why don't you be back at about 7:20 or so?
Okay.
It looks like everyone's back.
There's one other thing that happens with the painting besides the background. I still have to put some bugs in here. I've got to detail the branches, work on some of the veins. But there's something called mounting. And mounting is when you're finished with the painting, you mount it on another piece of paper. Let's see if I have something around here. So this is a small painting I did recently in another class. And this is, when you're done with the painting, it's pretty wrinkled. So I mount it on a second piece of paper, which is this piece of paper here. I make a paste, a special paste. I turn the painting upside down. I brush the paste over the whole thing and carefully adhere the second piece of paper to it. I'm making it sound easier than it is. And then I put it on a board over there to dry. And then it comes out nice and flat and presentable. The color comes out good. I noticed one of our participants tonight is Terry Grieg, who I haven't seen for at least 10 years. I want to say hi, Terry.
You ever do any lifting after you put the color down, Karen?
Nope, nope, can't do that. It's not like watercolor. I can layer though. But generally with layering, you have to watch your drawing because otherwise you can really rile up the paper, so to speak. Just for fun, let's get a couple of these bugs in here. Let me.
So Terry's saying hello back.
Okay,
Get a
great.
chance to chat at the end of the session.
Okay. By the way, if anybody is interested, I direct an art camp for adults that I've been doing for about 20 years. I've been directing for 17 years. This year, of course, we had to cancel. It happens, and Margaret has been teaching at the camp since 2008.
This is Feather River, right?
Feather River Art Camp.
Uh-huh.
And it's really a lot of fun. There's like usually a dozen different teachers, 10 to 12 teachers, depending on how many people sign up. It's a lot of fun, a lot of interesting classes, and hopefully we'll be able to meet next year. We're still waiting to see how things turn out.
Yeah, I was hoping to teach up there, but I wasn't sure whether, you'd have electricity for a mini lathe.
Oh, that's right. We communicated this last year.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't have enough electricity for you. I don't think. We did have a wood carving teacher, Sherry Tharp. I'm surprised you don't know her. She did have cancer the year before last, but I'm pretty sure she's recovered and teaching again.
Where is she located?
She's across from La Peña on Shattuck.
And her name again, please?
Sherry Tharp.
Sherry Tharp. I'll look her up. She's a wood turner.
Oh no, carver. She does carving.
Oh, carver. Uh-huh.
Yeah, really nice lady. Really super nice, excellent teacher.
Yeah, I'll check it out. It's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, people love her class.
So Karen is hoping to return to art camp next year. Karen S.
Oh yeah, Karen, she has been coming for quite a few years. We have quite a few people that really enjoy it, and we all become kind of like a lot of friends, as Margaret can attest. Yeah, it's just a really beautiful place. Okay. Gee, I wish it would. I went to get a hair dryer, and I had no outlets to plug it into.
Oh,
I've used up all my outlets, and I don't want to blow out my computer. So I'll put in a couple of wasps here. That'll be fun. Maybe just one.
so for those of you who just joined us, Karen is auctioning this painting, and the current bidding is at $150. So you can get your bids in by using the chat function and sending it to me or to everyone. Getting a lot of comments about Feather River Art Camp, that it's the favorite week, one of the favorite weeks in the summer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Usually it's the second week of June. We just have to wait and see what happens this coming year. Cute little bug.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. Okay. So I'm using a very opaque yellow here. I'm going to mix it with some very opaque green.
So Karen's painting, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Frank Bett Friends of the Alameda Animal Shelter fundraiser. It's going to be a joint venture coming up in March of next year. And I was looking at Karen's painting, thinking it would be wonderful to transfer onto a canvas bag and carry around, carry your groceries in. It would be beautiful. We have a call for artists up on our website at frankbettcenter.org. I'll put it up in a minute on the chat function. And you go to special events, and it's under paw prints. And so we have a prospectus there and an entry form and all the information you're going to need. It's free to enter, and you don't have to be a member of Frank Bett. We encourage any artist in Alameda to or anywhere else to join us. So we hope to have some community participation as well by folks.
How did you get involved in that, Ross?
Well, we're trying to, we would usually have fundraisers in person, and we would have our annual holiday boutique. And because of the pandemic, we can't do that this year. So we got in touch with the shelter, FAS, and they have, they were eager to join us. They have a rather large distribution list in Alameda, and a pretty big social media presence. And so we thought it would be a good idea to work with them. So we're going to have art on sale. We're going to have packages of, different things like a basket of catnip. And we have a wonderful mystery writer who's donated some of her Whiskers mystery stories. And we're going to have other wonderful donated things like that to put in some of these baskets, along with maybe some catnip and cat food and stuff like that from the shelter. We're going to offer different packages of workshops and instruction activities. And we're going to offer some workshops for like wine and wag in our backyard come summer. Where people and their friends can come and watch an art demo and enjoy wine sitting outside in the backyard.
And so this is an auction, you said?
This is going to be an auction. It's going to be online only. And so part of the challenge in doing this, we've never done it before, is to, and actually I hope you'll submit something, Karen, it would be wonderful. The challenge is, it's a twofold challenge. We need to engage our artists early enough to build the items that are going to be sold into a database. And then on the other side of that coin, we need to do a lot of social media advertising to alert the community about the fundraiser. So when it is offered March 4th through the 14th of next year, people will go to the website and bid on the items. So that's kind of the way we hope to do it. We'll have crafts as well as paintings, note cards. I expect we're going to have some beautiful quilts by some of our artists. We want to show the great variety of the kinds of art we have at Frank Bett. We have glass artists and ceramic artists and paper art folks. And I think I'm the only wood turner, but we have others that do all kinds of really cool stuff. So we're hoping they're all going to submit that so the community can get a better sense of what we do at Frank Bett.
I'm just feeling for dampness here. It's easy to get overly excited and put a background on too soon, in which case then you'll get stuff running. And I don't want to do that. Let's see, 7:34. Let me just make a little test here. Yeah, no, it's gonna run. So you have to more or less trust. I'm gonna put a background on there. And I'll just to get this painting here again. So now you'll probably notice the background, whereas before you probably didn't notice it. Here, let me put it here.
Ah, yes, uh-huh.
Okay. So I'm just going to remove this. Oops, I want to leave that so I know where to put the paper. The only reason I taped it down is because number one, the paper is curly because it's been rolled up, and so it keeps turning up. And the other reason is so it wouldn't move while I, for the zoom. So this is a really big soft brush. And what I'm going to do is put some
Was that
water on.
kind of a gray paint, a gray mixture?
I'm using the dirty water, and it only looks gray because the paper is turning wet.
Ah, I see, okay.
And also the cloth underneath is blue.
Uh-huh, okay.
It's actually clear. Well, it's you know, it's dirty water, so
Right.
it has a little bit of yellow. But it, you know, a big jar of water really does not color that much. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick some, oops, sorry, some colors over here.
This painting has a very Japanese flair, I think.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's it's pretty fast once you know how to do it. But this is the jumping off point for it, and it's fun. It's really fun. It's a different kind of detail. So the sort of the broad application in a painting like this, which is more singular in the strokes, is like what I bring to my compositions, but in my own personal compositions, then I layer more and build up color more. Whereas you can see this one is, there's a lot of black ink.
It's a pretty creative idea to use the dirty water as a background.
Yeah, well, actually, sometimes I do, but I'm using very watered down paint on my palette here. And now I'm painting on my mouse pad. Oh, well, I can move that. I'm adding a little green. The interesting thing about dirty water is it's made up of the colors that you've been using in your painting usually. So it usually goes as a nice neutral. So you can see that this softens it quite a bit. Now, when it dries, I'll take a look at it, and if I need to, I'll do another layer. But that drying element is critical. But do we still have a little bit of time, Ross? Or
We do. It's about 7:40.
wow. Let me show you the techniques for this Japanesey one, as you say. Tape it down.
So Robert's asking, when you mount the painting, do you mount it onto a traditional watercolor paper or another sheet of rice paper?
A piece of rice paper.
Okay.
And I actually made a short film of it a few years back, and it's on my website at the very bottom of, I think, the page that says our services. At the very bottom, if you scroll down, you'll get to the video.
And the paste, that's the video for making the paste?
No, the making the paste is not on the video.
Okay.
It's enough. The paste is basically cornstarch, water, and alum.
Could you use a matte gel or something like that, or a gesso?
I've never tried that. Somebody once brought to camp some special, what kind of paste was it? Some kind of, can't remember exactly. It was a paper made, a paste that bookbinders use, I think, people that do making books.
Yes, there's a company called Gamblin that makes, can't remember the name of it, but it's exactly what it is. It's like a glue. And while you're painting, you can tell us about your online classes if you like.
Oh, sure. I'm just finishing up some series. I'm teaching a beginning Chinese brush painting class on Thursday mornings. We have 2 more classes before the winter break. And I've been teaching a more advanced group for quite a long time. Wait, let me find my ink here. So I'm just working on my winter schedule. There's a chance I might get a grant, pretty good chance to teach a beginning drawing class for free to Oakland people. Okay. Now when I put this down, the first stroke is pretty big. And the next one's going to be a little lighter. Yeah, I'm working on what my schedule is going to be for the winter right now. I haven't decided. But I'm planning on teaching a class in drawing from plants and flowers,
Ah,
which I haven't taught for a while. I've taught I teach workshops at the Berkeley Botanical Garden. But our classes there have been online and not quite the same this last 9 months. But I always post my classes online on my website. So let's see here. Before I do that. This is kind of a fun.
so that's the ink you're using to make the black leaves?
This is black ink here,
That's
yeah,
the black ink.
yeah. So I'm hesitant to. I just wanted to like give you an idea of the brush strokes more than anything. So I'm not sure I should take the time to complete it because it might take us over time.
Yeah, we're coming up on about 7:50.
Yeah.
So, and
So I just wanted to, give you the idea of what goes, because once you understand the strokes, so here's this one again. So you can see it's just a matter of putting them all together, but getting them all to go together nicely, that's the challenge.
mm-hmm.
And of course, learning to make the strokes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give classes in brush painting. I also participate, usually in most years, I participate in about 20 art festivals a year. This year, wow. But this weekend, I'm participating in an online show through Sacramento. The Sacramento Art Festival of the Arts is trying it out online. I think did I put a link on my website? I'll check. I think I did. So you can go, there's about 130 artists, and it's kind of interesting. You can go on and, each artist has a shop, so-called quote unquote shop. And I did 2 other shows and they weren't very successful. But you know, it's a big learning curve for everybody right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
in the long term, I think it's going to, you know, it's going to be part of what we get used to, even after COVID.
Yeah. So I think I'll remove the spotlight on this and everyone can bring up their video and their audio and you can have a chance to chat directly with
Okay,
Karen.
sounds good.
It's really beautiful. I love the painting. So we're starting to see people again here. Let me,
Yeah, if anybody has any particular questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think folks are still unmuting here.
What's Ross using? It's right up there.
So where's Terry? I asked Terry to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Ah, there you are. Okay.
Been a while.
I know. I think that last time I saw you was at the West Portal Art Show
Oh gosh.
in San Francisco.
Yeah, what year?
That I don't know. Probably 2011 or 12.
Okay, so about 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I remember your paintings.
So does anybody have any, yeah, I know you went back east for a while. Anybody have any questions?
Staying muted. Oh, Robert's saying he has little kids in the background, so he's going to stay muted.
Okay.
If you have a question, you could send it through me then if you want.
Any questions?
Oh, no.
So Karen, when you put the black ink on, does it sort of, and then you start putting other things on top of it? Do you have to use a very opaque paint on top of it to have the
Yes.
light spots? You know, like you had some dark leaves with little lighter veins on them.
Yeah, like right here, you see that green leaf there?
Mm-hmm.
So that particular paint is Marie's. It's a Chinese paint, and it's extremely opaque. There's only a few paints that are opaque enough. This green is one of them. This is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is gouache opaque enough or not?
you know, it depends on the gouache, but gouache is definitely more opaque, but any of your cadmium colors are very opaque.
Mm-hmm.
So anything mixed with a cadmium or a titanium white, if you mix a color with a titanium white, that's extremely opaque.
Okay.
So if you didn't have an opaque yellow or green, you could mix a green and mix it with titanium white, and then you'd get it'd be very opaque.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, see?
So do you do you prefer to work with that heavier rice paper, or do you sometimes work with the lighter weight? I know when you were
Yeah,
having
I
to
work with
do
the light.
some
I work with the lighter
Yeah,
weight
but
paper.
understand, that's why.
If I'm doing, especially if I'm doing something that's you know, more direct, like there's not going to be much layering,
Mhm.
then it's more suitable for that. Or if it's ink only, like
I'm gonna put it in.
your typical landscape paper is a sized alum. It has a little bit of sizing on the surface, so it's not quite as absorbent, and the ink sits more on the surface, so you can draw. And you know, the drawing tradition with the brush is pretty interesting because it grew out of the whole the whole writing skill, drawing. Even little Chinese kids, they'll ask you, show me how to write this picture. They don't say, show me how to draw. They say, show me how to write it. Because that's the translation, for the,
Yeah, interesting.
and yeah, so, with calligraphy and the going way back and then throughout the, thousands, by the year 10,000, my understanding is that pretty much the most modern of calligraphy had already been developed at that point. And so modern calligraphers are really hard pressed to come up with new types of calligraphy. Although I'm sure that I don't keep up with it, but I'm sure that, there's some that are doing it, but it's anyway, when you're drawing with a brush, like you're doing landscape, then you load up your brush with black ink and you'd be surprised. You can do a pretty big drawing with one loading. That's how far it goes. And if the paper is a sized paper, when you draw on the surface, it doesn't get absorbed into it. And so it lasts even longer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, paper's pretty interesting, the quality. This paper I'm using here tonight is, it's a jade plate double Schwann. So it has a nice smooth plate for the brush to glide over, so to speak. And it takes the color really nicely, whereas some cheaper papers, the color just looks dull on them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're good for practice. So, there's no reason to, in fact, a lot of times my students practice on newsprint, and even I do, just to, to have some paper just to get the yah-yahs out, so to speak. Weren't we talking about that earlier? Getting the yah-yahs out, where you just want to put your brush down and move around and make a mess, and then you're more focused, more disciplined.
Well, this has really been wonderful, Karen. It's almost like you paint like it's a meditation. It's
Yeah, it is.
it's a very deliberate style. There's, it's very just ordered almost. It's very peaceful to watch you paint.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
And yeah, people say, what do they say? Anyway, honestly, I don't paint unless I'm happy. If I'm painting, I'm happy. People say, does painting make you happy? I don't paint if I'm not happy. Or, yeah, it's because it really requires that kind of deliberate focus like you're talking about. Or if I'm too busy, I don't paint. I'm not a person that feels like my life will fall apart if I don't paint. Sometimes I go months, take care of business and other stuff just because that's what I have to do. So when I sit down and paint, I'm totally focused. So for the last few months, I've been working on my studio. I'm upgrading, and I hope to have a nice open studio here. Seems like it's taking a long time, but maybe by the first of the year.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to be on my email list, please go on my website. There's you can sign up there for my newsletter I send out whenever I'm doing something new.
Great. And Margaret is the winner of your painting. Congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you.
I've been wanting to buy one of your paintings for a long time, Karen. This was perfect. Fred and
You
I
got a good-
really love this piece.
you got a good deal.
I got a very good deal.
Yeah.
Somebody else could have been up higher. $150 is cheap for this.
Yep.
Well, are there any other questions before we sign off for anyone? Now's the chance to have a brief chance to visit. And if not, then thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's always fun to